Or that was the foxhole one.
That was the foxhole one.
This Amateur Radio Roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America. Hey guys, welcome to Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB, and we got, I think, an interesting show for you tonight. Katie's not going to be on the show tonight. I see her in the chat room there. She is taking a little break from the show this week. I think she'll be back next week. Let's see, we got Martin on here with us tonight, so it's kind of going to be a light show tonight. We've got Martin as the pilot. I'm the co-pilot tonight, so that's it, man. And Martin, I hope you know how to fly this thing.
Well, I hope you have some trust in me, because I don't.
Well, I think we'll make it. If we had Walter here, we'd probably make it all right.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, this is Amateur Radio Roundtable, and this program is also simulcast on international shortwave on 5130 kilohertz every Tuesday night. And we invite you, if you're listening out there on 5130, if you have internet with you, just go ahead and jump on the internet and log into, or go to w5kub.com, and you can watch the show. We've got a chat room. You can ask us questions, communicate with us. The show's got local phone numbers in about 65 countries for people to call into the show. And I think that's going to be important tonight, because we want a lot of viewer precipitation. Is that what we want tonight, Martin? Viewer precipitation?
Precipitation.
Yeah. We could
use some of that.
We want viewer precipitation tonight. And we'd love to have you, because we're going to be talking about ham radio of the old days, and we want to hear your stories, and hey, even if you have questions or whatever, we want you to call in here. Hey, just real quick, Martin, before we get over to you, talking about precipitation, last night, boy, we got a big warning, the Weather Service. I think you said you got some little ice pellets or something falling right now, but we got a warning last night, from National Weather Service that just about all day today we were going to have sleet and snow, ice, that kind of stuff. So, it was looking pretty grim there. We did manage to go outside just a little earlier here. I made a video so you guys can see what we're dealing with here, and this is it's pretty tough for Memphis, but I'm gonna put it on here and let you see it. Let me pull the video up here. I think you can recognize me. I was wrapped up pretty good, because it was pretty cold. Here we go. We took a chance to keep on outside to let you see what's going on out here. This is pretty severe for us here in Memphis. The National Weather Service predicted ice, sleet, and snow, and we're definitely getting it here. We've already been to the grocery store this morning, got our milk and bread. And I tell you, I'm glad we got there early, because the shelves are just about getting empty. Kathy, can you show them? I think it's pretty deep over there. Can you show them how deep it is over there? All right. Well, you can see it got pretty bad here, Martin.
Well, when I was driving home tonight, we had some little ice rain participation.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any of that white stuff.
Well, you had some participation tonight, huh? All right. Well, very good. Well, you can see it got pretty good there. We do have gas for the generator. We were prepared. I think we're in good shape there. Usually, a little bit more than that will shut down the area here for a couple of days, and it gets pretty tough. We don't have any real snow removal equipment or anything here in our town, so it gets pretty tough when the conditions get like that. Uh, I was just looking in the chat room. Uh, yeah, they're talking about how we had a blizzard there. Okay, hey, just a couple quick announcements here, and we're going to jump in the show. um, hey, got a note from Hamvention. We'll try to have them on here soon, but this is from Jack Gerbs. Jack's the general chairman down here. Increasing cost of emissions. Jack is telling us that they're announcing this week that the general admission is going to rise by $4 per ticket to $26 in advance, or $31 at the gate, and that's for all 3 days. And the flea market spaces are going to go up $5 per space. That's not a whole lot of money, up to $30 or more for a space there. But it says Hamvention always strive to produce a very high quality event for amateur radio enthusiasts from around the globe. We've always felt it imperative that we give back to the amateur radio at many levels, and they've been very generous in support over the years. But it's a big deal to put Hamvention on, and I think any money they make goes back into the ham radio community. They don't keep it there. I believe they have scholarships for young hams and other things like that. So anyway, that's happening. That's happening. Hey, let's talk a minute about our 40-meter net. Our 40-meter net went pretty well tonight. We had about 35 check-ins. That's on 7180 every Tuesday night. Now, I don't know if this was last Tuesday or sometime in between there, but I usually get on in the afternoons, and I'll post the frequency in our Facebook group, somewhere around 7180. And Joe McCready, WB8 CTC, I don't know if he's in here tonight or not, but Joe checked into our net on CW. He just couldn't make it in on sideband. He was running 5 watts only. And he checked in on CW, so that just shows you that CW is still here to stay, and it's worth knowing there. He's out in Wheeling, West Virginia. So tonight we're going to talk a little about novice days. I thought that'd be a good subject to talk about novice days, and then I'm sure we're going to get into some old days with ham radio. And I sure hope everybody out there start getting brave, because I want you to call in. We'll open the phone lines up after a while, and we want to hear your story about the novice days and your early days in ham radio. And hey, Martin, just to start it off, I'll read a quick email here I got from W0EXT. He said, we had the greatest days building our transmitters from the backs of old TV sets in a one-room schoolhouse. We each had one crystal each, and would swap them and switch them out among ourselves every week so we could talk to new stations. We were QRP. By the way, QRP was popular with 5 watts, maybe slightly more or less. And we ran split frequencies up and down the novice portion of 40 meters. We unwound transformers to get the copper wire out to make antennas. We used plastic pill bottles for the coils. We made our chassis and punched holes in it with the Greenlee hole cutters for our tube sockets. Their Elmer was instructor. His Elmer was an instructor in the U.S. Navy and Signal Corps. And let's see, it says 3 of them, 3 of the guys here remained in their hobby, all extra class. DX, he says DX was maybe California and exotic locations like Cheyenne, Wyoming. That was DX and exotic locations. Wow. Big stuff and, big stuff and a long way on our little stations. So he had fun there, and that's gonna start our segment tonight about novice days, man. And we're gonna open the
That
phone line.
was
I'll bring the phone line in a minute.
that was during our era.
Yeah, it kind of was,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did all the same things we did there. Take an old transformer and get the wire out. I never really had any shortage of wire, but I was never around a lot. But we always find some wire somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and people like QRP now. Well, we were QRP back then, for sure.
Yeah. That's all we had. The voltages from a TV transformer wasn't high enough to give us anything but QRP.
Yeah,
We used to rate everything with input power.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, he was talking about DX. Man, I don't ever remember working at DX. I think I worked Bermuda when I was a novice, and that was like you said, man. California was DX back then. Did you work a lot of
Oh,
DX?
man. No, I mean, DX to me was just a contact.
Yeah, I know, man. It was. That's funny. Uh, and did we even know what we were doing back then? You were
Uh,
16. I was 16. You know.
yeah. Now, I remember, the TR switch we used to have was an alligator clip, and you had to remember to clip that lead on the transmitter or the receiver. And sometimes you forget, and it's still on the receiver while your transmitter. It didn't hurt the transmitter because it was a tube.
Yeah. Well, so you used the alligator clip to switch your antenna back and forth. Now, hey, here's something that this was a military thing. This is what the military used on many of their
Uh,
radios to switch their antenna. And this is similar to what a lot of us use to switch our antenna if we didn't have an alligator clip.
oh, that's deluxe.
Isn't that I bet that switch cost the government some money right there.
I'm sure it did. That's a double pole, double throw. You could
Yeah.
switch both sides.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was that was for like a ladder line or
Yeah,
well,
well,
back then 300 ohm TV twin lead.
yeah, yeah. Now when I was novice, I never ran any like twin leader or open line or anything like that. But you did, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that we had 300 ohm just regular TV twin lead, but we also had 75 ohm twin lead. That was
Yeah.
little tiny stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't have coax. I remember using this is the old twisted cloth cover wire that went to appliances. You
Yeah.
could use that, and many years later, there was an article in QST magazine about losses in that cloth covered appliance 110-volt wire. I mean, it would work, but you would lose a lot of power in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you worry about impedance or anything like that, or you just used the wire, right? You didn't care.
I didn't know what impedance was back then.
Right, yeah, yeah. Well, we didn't have SWR meters.
But, well, what we had was a Pi network.
Yeah,
So you tuned it up in a certain way, and you could get some power out.
I think the way I tuned, I had of course, you can see the plate current, and you can see the plate current, and then you had a relative output. Basically it's a diode sampling the RF, and you just tune for the maximum needle. You'd kind
Yeah.
of watch.
Well,
You'd kind of watch the dip. You'd watch the dip in the plate, and then you'd load it up with the load, and you just tune for maximum output. You almost didn't know what you were running, but that's the way we tuned up back then.
yeah. Well, you had a device that I didn't even have, which was that relative power meter. All I
Oh
had
yeah,
was the plate current meter, where you dip it and then you load it a little bit and dip it, and load it and dip it until you could
yeah,
just barely dip it.
right,
Uh,
right.
so yeah, so you assume you were putting some power out. We must have had some power going out because we were making some contacts.
Well, yeah, and I'm also reading the chat room here. We'll pull them into discussion here.
Okay.
KE7KK, he says he worried about TVI. Now, I can remember my mom and dad coming to me and say, "Are you causing interference with neighbors' TVs?" You know, did that ever happen to you?
Well, it did, but I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't too worried about it either. I'm sure I probably messed up a few little TVs. Back then we didn't have cable, so everybody had antennas, and we were 50 miles from the nearest TV station. So you can imagine even a low power ham transmitter 100 feet from their TV antenna and the TV station, 50 miles away. You can imagine you could cause a little
Yeah,
problems,
it just overloaded, if
Yeah,
nothing else, even if you were way off frequency.
yeah. And
But
I did get me a low pass filter to put on there. I think that's supposed to cut the signals off or attenuate them above 30 megahertz, I believe. So I did do that. But I didn't have any just real major problems with TVI. I don't think. Uh,
well, there were only in Hollandale, Mississippi, where I grew
mhm.
up. There was only one ham, and I was after I got my license, I was the second ham. We only had two hams in my whole town, and I was only running 22 watts input power
Yeah,
into a single 807 with plug-in coils and
yeah.
crystal with two.
So, how many people were in your town? What was the population?
We had about 2,000.
Oh man, you're in a big city.
Yeah.
My town I grew up in was 1,000, and you said you had
Oh
about
man.
two hams there. I had zero hams there that
Oh man.
so I kind of learned with the School of Hard Knocks, but
How
uh,
did you even know about ham radio?
I started out listening on an old Zenith shortwave receiver. One of the old big things, the consoles that are about 4 foot
Yeah.
tall. Boy, it really sounded
Yeah.
good. And I would listen to shortwave stations. Your typical Radio Havana, Cuba, Moscow, things like that. But there was also a little place on there. It was called Amateur Band, and it wasn't but about, I don't know, half-inch long, but I could tune in there and I could pick up hams talking. I think that got me interested. I remember listening to hams that were on barges, riverboats going up the Mississippi,
Ah,
and
wow.
I listened to some of them.
Well,
Uh,
let me tell you how I found out about ham radio. I was laying in bed one night during the summertime, hot, humid, sweating, and I was listening on my one transistor radio. It was a crystal radio.
mhm.
And I heard this guy talking, and it turned out to be that ham in Hollandale. This was an AM crystal radio with a one transistor amplifier,
Mhm.
and that's how I found out about ham radio.
Well, hey, if you were lucky, you might have could have picked him up on your TV. You know?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, if he
I
was
wasn't
close
that
enough.
lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I got interested, and when I grew up, I kind of had a connection to electronics because my uncle was the only TV repairman in like an entire county, and
Wow.
I was always getting parts and stuff out of his trash can when I was a little bitty guy, and I think
Mm,
it helped me a lot, and especially later on, novice days or after novice days in building stuff. If I needed resistors, he had hundreds of junk TVs lined up outside the cabinet, and I'd just get me a cup or a bucket and some cutters. I'd go through cutting resistors out, capacitors, tube sockets, transformers,
mm,
anything I needed, man, it was there. So it was like I had my own personal Radio Shack.
wow.
But
Well, this,
I guess everybody kind of has their own story. I mean, as
well,
far as
they were
yeah.
all pretty similar.
Well,
This,
I think they were, back in our day. Now it's much different nowadays getting a license, I didn't. There was no ham club or no other hams there that, actually helped me with really anything. I did eventually, after I got my license, met up with some other novices in nearby cities, like 15 miles away, or, well, that may be the only city I remember close enough that we could visit. But, and we'd swap equipment and stuff and play around with it. But, and we'd swap crystals, like W0 EXT says here, they would swap crystals every week. And what people, I guess nowadays, don't understand, this is this is how we got our frequency back then, right here.
7163.
And
Yeah.
that would I think that would have been a novice. I think the novice band was 7100. Wait a minute, maybe 7150 to 7200 or something like that. It was right in the middle there.
Yeah. That's what it was, 50 kilohertz.
Yeah, so that's how we made our contacts. That set our frequency. There you are. Look at there, man. This guy was a rich guy, man. He had six of them. Look at that. He was
a rich guy.
Now,
Well, what you could do back then was you would unscrew those 3 screws and get to the crystal itself and take a pencil lead, just a pencil, and rub on it. And just start in the center and just go clockwise and make a circle, and that would lower your frequency a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go back up, you just erased it. Now you could go up in frequency if you would grind it on sandpaper or toothpaste a little bit.
Yep.
But that didn't work very well. I did that a couple of times.
Well, I didn't do it. I would have probably messed my crystal up pretty good. And I think I only had a few. I wasn't as lucky as this guy right here. I only had a few. Mm-hmm. But, like W0 EXT was talking here, you trade crystals. But the interesting thing about that is we would plug that crystal in. Yeah, let's see. We would plug this crystal in, and I'd call CQ on 7163. And I'd be in a novice band, and another novice was going to answer me, most likely. And but he might answer me on 7169. So you had to tune up and down, and I was about listening for somebody calling you. And same way with them. They might call on 7169, and I only had that one crystal, and I'll call them. So you look around, for calls, and we would even swap crystals. So we worked split. Boy, that was split back in the olden days.
Yeah. Isn't that an interesting way to work each other? I mean, compared to what it is now. You tune someone in, and if you're off like 10 hertz, they'll complain you're off frequency.
Yeah. And but it was a lot of fun to do that. Learned a lot about radio, and I think that prepared you much better for going into like your general license or your, back then. A little later we had the general and the advanced and extra. Licensing has changed a lot over the years, but I think that experience being a novice helped you really get into much deeper into ham radio.
Well,
and
it
get you into the higher licenses.
Make mistakes and not be embarrassed about it.
Yeah. Well, one of the, we didn't have the internet back then. One of the big things. Here's my 1964 handbook.
Oh man!
And let me tell you, there's a lot of cool things in here. Of course, if anybody looked at this today, they probably wouldn't understand it because there's a few little transistor things. But in 1960, 1964, there wasn't that much transistor stuff out there. It was just starting to come out.
Just starting.
Yeah. So, but there was just hundreds of projects to build, and the book showed the projects pretty detailed in the diagram and explained it. So this is this is real interesting to go back and look at.
Well, if you look at that, it's pretty amazing that a tube would do one thing, or maybe it'd do two things, or at the most three things. Maybe one trio or two trio, or maybe a trio and a pinto, but it would be like one transistor, or two transistor, or three. Now with the integrated circuits, there's millions of transistors in there. It's amazing that we even got stuff to work.
Yeah, I know it. When you look back at how simple the circuits were back then, it's amazing. Like you say, they even worked there. Let's see. I just pulled up some random pictures that we can use maybe to talk about. Back then, especially transmitters, we built a lot of stuff. I mean, and this is not going back that far. Look at this transmitter right here. You probably built something like that in the 1960s.
Yeah, that looks like a 6L6.
Yeah, and it's got a crystal there. You used an old tube socket, an octal tube socket there, and the crystal would plug exactly into two different pinholes on that tube socket.
Looks like you used some popsicle sticks to make that coil.
I haven't noticed it, but that is popsicle sticks right there. Yep, popsicle sticks. Now, about this time, and I got this for a later segment, but let me show you. Here's a coil. I mean, I'm gonna jump into my antenna real quick. My half-wave matching. You talking about coil? Look at that coil right there. I think I made that coil in 1964. That's a piece of plexiglass in a straight piece of wire, and I just coiled it through there. What do you think about that?
Man, it took you a while to drill those holes. There's a bunch of them in that.
There was.
You drilled them pretty straight.
There was, and it turned out pretty good there. So, in fact,
it looks like a doorknob capacitor from a
TV
set.
It is, and you know what? That capacitor and that inductor has the right value to match my 40-meter half wave. That's what I'm using to match my half wave. Let me get back on subject here. Let's see. Let me see what else we got here as far as the pictures. This was probably a pretty decent rig back then, wasn't it?
Oh man, that's deluxe. Looks like you got a regenerative receiver and a separate power supply and a transmitter. That's
and
beautiful.
I noticed in that power supply, that's probably, I guess the big one's probably maybe a 5U4 or maybe a 5R4. And then down on the left end of that power supply, that's one of those voltage regulator tubes. They kind of glowed. Do you remember those?
Oh man, deluxe.
Yeah.
That looks like you might have had a choke in there too.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did there. Let's see.
You see that plug-in coil in the receiver on the left front with two knob, band spread and band set.
Yeah.
Must have been a regenerative control. No. That's a vernier dial on the big knob that's in the middle, and then a small one just down to the right of it. That's a vernier tuning knob. And then you had a volume control, regenerative control, and that one with the vernier tuning was the fine tuning, and the knob on the left, the big one on the left, was the band set knob.
Yeah. Well, Bill in the chat room reminded me that's an OA2. That voltage regulator, that's an OA2. I had forgotten the name of the tube there. And hey, the first number in a tube, like a 5R4 or a 6V6, that first number, a lot of people might not know this, so we're going to teach them something tonight, Martin. That first number is the filament voltage.
Yeah.
If it's a 6V6, it's 6 volts. 5U4, it's a 5 volt. So that's what that first number is. Now that OA2, I guess that means that OA2 doesn't have a filament. I don't know.
I guess so. That makes sense. The way they use those voltage regulator tubes was just like a Zener. It's a shunt regulator. it would get up to a certain voltage and it would break down just like a Xena.
All right, well, we're getting a correction in the chat room. They're saying the 082 was a 7-pin miniature. It might be. I don't know. But I do remember that octal voltage regulator. I can't remember the nomenclature for that one. But anyway, that's not important. But we're just trying to show people kind of what it was like back then, you know. So you put all this stuff together, man, and look, hey, there is a station, man. Now, this kid here, he had a pretty good station. This is a ham station, about 1960, maybe a year or two earlier.
That's nice.
He's got 3 crystals there, so boy, he can QSY everywhere.
Oh, I see his crystal. Yeah.
Yeah.
J38 key from World War II. Looks like at the top left, he's got a relay TR switch. That's deluxe.
Yeah, could be.
And a Miko transmitter in the middle with a 6V6. That probably put out, well, input power maybe 10 watts, maybe. Plug-in coils.
Maybe so. Okay, Jim is telling us. Hey, Jim is telling us that I think that octotube is a OD3, and that may be. I don't remember the OD3.
Okay.
But that might be it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. So look at that receiver, transmitter. He's got his frequencies there. You know, 1960s were a good time to get surplus stuff because all this stuff was coming to life during World War II, like that key there, and especially receivers. You know, good receivers weren't that easy just to throw together and build. So there were some great receivers that came out surplus too. Let's see, we've got
that receiver in that picture there to the right looks like a regenerative receiver with plug-in coils.
Yeah,
and there's a pair of headphones plugged into it.
Hey, while I'm at it here, I'm going to pull up. We had 3 or 4 people send in some pictures of Novice stations. I don't know if they're in the chat room. If you're in the chat room, let me know, because if you'd like to call in on the phone, I'd love to hear from you to talk about your setup. But I'm gonna show you a few pictures of people sending in of their Novice station. We didn't get that many, but here we go. So I started it off with me. Let me get it up here larger. Yeah, I started it off with me right there. And, you know, I guess I had a pretty nice station there. My parents bought me the transmitter and receiver there. And over a couple years, I added some things like the signal tracer and that VFO is borrowed, that VFO on top there. And what is that, a DX20 or a 40 maybe? I don't know.
That's that looks like a DX20.
It might be.
And
that was
signal
borrowed,
tracer
I'm sure.
looks like the ICO signal tracer.
Yeah.
And that microphone looks like a Lafayette Levere. Well, how do you pronounce it? Levere microphone.
I don't know, but it's a flaky looking microphone, man. If anybody's using a mic like that today, you'd probably get laughed at. You know what?
Yeah.
But
you had to reach over and throw a switch somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where my switch was there, but you know, I think right there I was a novice and a tech at the same time, and that allowed me to use the mic on AM on 6 meters, and of course I worked CW on you know, the novice band. So that
looks like a vibraplex down there.
It is. It's a vibraplex, and I just looked that up today. It's the Chrome Deluxe vibraplex key. I looked that up today, and the Deluxe back in 1964 cost $29.
Oh man!
Now I don't know if that was well, if it was on today's dollars, I don't know what that key sells for. Probably a few $100s, I'm guessing. So my parents were really generous to me there.
That doesn't even look like you, Tom.
Well, yeah, kind of doesn't, does it? Let's see. I've got, let me see. Let's see if I got another picture of me here. All All right. Well, how about this one right here? That's me with the same equipment, maybe in the other part of the room.
That's
There's
a
my
little bit older
receiver.
version of you.
There's
I
my
know. I see your. That's an ICO signal generator on the left
Yep,
top.
yep. Signal generator and signal tracer, and
Yeah.
those are cool
Oh,
things.
you like the ICO and the night kit of the Helicrafter. So let me look over here. That's a Helicrafter H. That's a receiver anyway.
SX 140.
That's it.
And
Yeah,
you've
I
got one. You've
remember.
got one in your shop. You've got both my transmitter and receiver there in your
Yeah,
office. Hey,
you
that
got
test
it.
equipment. It's funny what you do when you're a kid like that. That signal generator there has an input for modulation. You know,
Oh,
and
you're talking about that Magic IT up to the right
no,
of the
I'm
speaker.
talking about the signal generator, the one on the left.
Oh, signal
It
generator.
has an
Okay, yeah.
input. It has an input for modulation.
I see.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
modified the thing on the left, the signal tracer. I
Mm-hmm.
took the output of that and put it into the input, modulation input on a signal generator, and I put a mic
Mm-hmm.
on the signal tracer, and I could tune that thing, and I had a radio station.
Oh, I see.
You know,
Use the signal tracer for an amplifier
yeah,
to modulate
to
the
modulate
signal generator, so you
yeah,
have an AM transmitter.
yeah. So I got my illegal radio station back in.
Oh yeah, you could go anywhere with that.
Just about going any
Any
frequency, just
frequency,
about with that
yeah.
thing. Yeah. So,
But that transmitter you have on the bottom
right,
right,
yeah,
T150,
yeah.
was also had an AM input.
Well, it was AM. It was AM and CW.
Yeah,
Yeah,
control grid modulation.
right.
Wasn't that it?
Yeah, that's it. But I did plate modulate it. It had a plug on the back. You could pull this plug out. You could plug a plate modulator in, and I had a plate modulation built up. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I plate modulated it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see.
You know,
Let me get back. Let me get back on
when
her.
you plate modulated it, you had to have half the power of your transmitter, audio power,
Well,
to get 100%
yeah, I don't know. I
modulation.
really don't know what I had. To tell you the truth, I mean, but hey, back in those days, it worked. So yeah, there's a
Oh yeah.
picture there, and let's see who else set a picture in here. Hey, this is William Mac Coverdell, if I'm doing it right.
Wow.
WD
That's a
zero.
that's a super deluxe station
Yeah,
there.
WD zero
Look at that,
BCX. Man, I mean, wouldn't that have been nice to have back then?
man. SX 101 with a Viking,
Yeah.
Johnson Viking, built-in VFO. Oh, wait, down in between the receiver and the speaker, right at the bottom, that looks like a Regency AC1, which was a mobile converter. That's
Yeah.
what it looks to me like. I may be
It may
wrong
be.
about
It may
that.
be there. Well, hey, he even had two lamps. Look at that. He had a dual lamp.
Oh
I don't think
man.
I had but a single lamp.
Oh
Anyway,
man.
that's William.
VFO was on top.
Yeah.
That must have been a 2 meter, 6 meter VFO.
Yeah. Hey, here's Raymond Simmons. He was I guess right now his call is KA4 KGO. I think he would have been a KN4 possibly.
Yeah,
But
we're getting into a much later time now. That's a TS520
yeah,
transceiver.
it is. But he was a novice here, I think, and it's about
Yeah,
1979 or 80, I guess.
yeah,
He was real
yeah,
lucky if he
something
got
like
that back
that.
then. Yeah. Hey,
Wow.
if any of you guys where we're showing the pictures are in the chat room, I'd like to get you on the show. Let us know if you're in the chat room, or be sure and call in a few minutes. We'll get you on the show here and talk about all these things. Well, let's see. I think I got another one or two here. Yeah, this one is from David Osley. He's
Okay, that's back in our
WB4
era.
NCT.
QF1 key multiplier.
Yeah, he was WN4 NCT. This is about 1967 here.
Okay.
So let's
Looks
see.
like a homebrew transmitter,
Yep.
and I can't see the receiver very well. Looks like a national.
Yeah. But look at that, boy. He had a telephone there. A lot of people didn't even have
Yeah.
telephones in their ham shack, you know.
Yeah.
So
Man.
that's pretty cool. Let's see if we got another one here. I don't think. Yeah, we got another one here. This was WN5 AIA about 1969. He had an ICO 720 there, but he was
Yeah.
lucky. Look at that Drake 2B he had.
Oh man.
Now
That was a super receiver back then.
he probably made some good contacts back then, you know.
You see his VFO on the right side, the night kit, and Heathkit lunchbox, super regenerative receiver.
Yep, I see the lunchbox here.
Yeah, what's under the Drake 2B?
Well, I don't know. I can't see it very well in the picture here. Let's see. Let's just see if I can blow that up a little bit. Let's see what happens here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're going to do some investigating here. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like a receiver. It's like the slide rule type receiver, maybe 4 or 5 different bands on it.
Looks like the Radio Shack.
Could be.
Either that or the ICO.
Yeah, it might.
That may be the DX150, DX160 Radio Shack.
Yeah, well, he's got the Drake receiver up there would be a really good one for him to use, you know.
That was about the best back then.
Oh yeah, yep.
And that was a nice transmitter too.
Okay, let's see. Like I said, my mic is a little low. Let me crank it up a little bit. I think I was getting some interference from my cell phone a minute ago.
What is that mounted on the wall on that panel? Is that a TR switch or antenna switch?
You know, it looks like well, it looks like it's got a meter on it. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
Let's zoom in again.
Meter.
Let's zoom in again and see if we can figure this out. Let's see what we can do.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I think it's got a meter on it. That's probably
an SWR meter.
Probably an SWR meter. Boy, what a lucky guy.
24-hour clock.
Yeah. Yep. SWR meter. That's what it is.
Yeah. We used to call it GMT.
Yeah. What happened with that GMT? Now you got to call it Greenwich local UTC Universal Time, and all that.
Universal Coordinated Time. Used to be called Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah. I wonder if people still know it by that.
I don't know.
I don't know either. All right, so I think that was all the pictures. If any of you guys are in a chat room, let me know. I'm not watching the chat room very good, but keep yelling at us. We'll open the phone lines up in just a minute. We'll get some stories going here. We want to hear your stories. And let's see.
Tom, we used to look like that.
We did. In fact,
skinny kids.
That reminds me. I can find about 2 pictures only of me back in that time period. You said you couldn't find any pictures. You didn't have any pictures. We just didn't make many pictures back then, and it was a little camera that shot the little thing. You had to take it off and get it developed. I think I did find one picture of you, Martin. I found one picture of you there. Yeah.
That goes back a ways.
Yeah, you look like, I don't know, the big switch right there.
Funny.
And you got all that. You had a Zenith something here. I don't know what that is, but
that is funny, man.
That's probably Spark Gap.
KN5.
What,
Wow.
Were you a KN5?
I was.
Yeah, okay, I got it right then.
KN5 FLU.
Yeah.
And then I dropped the N and became K5 FLU. Same call the whole time.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we did dig that picture up there.
That's
so
that is
I
funny.
thought, I thought I'd get that out here since you couldn't find any pictures. Let's see what else we got going here real quick. Just say some different. Well, that was well,
DX100
yeah,
with a Drake antenna tuner and the Hamelin. I don't know what that is. HQ170,
probably, probably.
HQ180.
Yeah, probably one of those. Let's see. Now here's a national receiver. That they
Oh
always
yeah,
looked a little different.
HRO50. I got
Yeah,
one of those.
yeah, they
You
looked
see
a
that down at the bottom with the two handles?
yeah.
That whole assembly pulls out.
Oh yeah.
That's how you change bands. And you
You
stick another assembly in there to change
you
bands.
showed me that when I was there. You pull that bottom drawer out, and that's the actual coils that set the band, and you just slide another one in. That's
Yeah, when you change bands, see that Slyro tuning dial up
yeah,
at the
yep.
top? Well, when you change band, the that drum inside rotate it to the next band.
Oh
The
yeah,
whole
yeah.
cylinder rotated.
Well, one of the one of the neat things about my time, and it may not quite,
Oh man.
it might not quite been when you got your license, but the Heath kit started coming out with a lot of neat things. You know, they were a real leader, I think, in inexpensive ham radio stuff.
Oh, they dominated. I
Yeah,
know what every one of those things are.
you probably
Uh,
have. I bet you have one of those in your office.
I do. I can tell you that on the bottom left, I'm talking about the top part, top shelf, QF1, that's the Q multiplier, and right behind it is a transmitter, DX40.
Yeah.
In front of that DX40 is a keyer, and then there's a receiver right in the middle. That's the HR10. On top of that is the
Is that a
VFO,
Yeah, VFO.
HC10, and the DX60 transmitter. And those two things that looks like a copper thing is a converter. I think that was for 6 meter in this power supply.
Mm-hmm.
And under that shelf is the Viking antenna tuner with built-in SWR meter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that Heathkit lunchbox again. And behind the lunchbox is the Mohegan shortwave receiver from Heathkit.
Okay. Let's see what else we got going here. Did you ever play with any of the central electronic stuff?
No, but I knew about it and I had one.
Yeah.
That was a phasing sideband transmitter.
Yeah.
If you look right in the middle at the top, that's a
Magic
eye.
Eye. Yep. You know, I borrowed one from a friend and played with it, and like you said, that was one of the first sideband rigs to get on sideband, and I guess you used that military surplus, whatever that is, a Arc 5 or whatever that thing is.
Yeah, that was the VFO.
Yeah, you use that VFO for it. That was interesting. I don't even know if I ever made a contact. You know, back when I got my license, everything was on AM. Sideband was just starting to come out, and people didn't like sideband. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
They would
You know,
come.
I used to have a DX40 that used controlled grid modulation, and it sounded so bad. The way controlled grid modulation works is it would just put a signal out when you talked,
Hmm.
just about like sideband, and it sounded so bad people thought I was on sideband.
Well, you know, I remember. I remember when it came. We were all on AM, and boy, you know, we were having a good time talking AM to AM and all that. But I remember sidebanders came on there when they got that, and they would call them slot buckets, and somebody in the chat room mentioned that. They were called slot buckets, and people would say, why don't they go up above 3,800 or wherever they belong? You know, we didn't want them. We didn't want them down in our band, you know. And let me tell you, I mean, people might think AM just sounds so great today, but I'll tell you, you can do a whole lot more, I think, with sideband than you can with AM today.
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
can
you
get a
know,
lot more
back
signals on the
then,
band, for sure.
well, back then our receivers weren't stable enough to copy sideband unless you left your hand on a tuning knob to keep retuning it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see what else I got here. Well, we've already talked about the Heathkit.
DX40.
There's some nice stuff right
Oh
there.
man, look at that. Millen antenna tuner. That's super deluxe tuner.
Yep. Yep.
And what is that? A National NC300.
I guess.
Oh, and a Viking Ranger. Is that a Viking?
Yeah, it's a Viking. I don't know. Yeah, I think it is a Ranger. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's deluxe there.
Yeah. Let's see what this.
Dummy
Oh, now,
ride.
hey, now we're kind of getting back into my category, you know.
Oh yeah.
Now what is that? An SX38 or something? I don't know what it is. It's a
That's a S53.
S53.
That had 2 IF stages.
All right.
And if you look at the transmitter on the left-hand side, that's a 50C5 or a 6AQ5 for the vacuum tube between the crystal and the plug-in coil. And if you look right in the middle, that power supply is bigger than the transmitter.
Yeah, it is. Now that receiver, of course, I think a better receiver. I had an SX140. I was lucky, but I just don't see how back then you actually made contacts on a receiver like that. You know, it just.
Yeah.
I guess that's why. I guess that's why DX was like California, or you know, I mean, you needed a good long strong signal, and you can make a contact.
But you know, those receivers were not much more than a regular AC/DC broadcast band AM receiver.
Yep.
And that's a Viking key, telegraph key down at the bottom.
Yep.
Say, Popular Electronics. Can you see what month and year that was?
Oh man, let's see if we can figure that out. Let's just see.
My guess would be late 50s, early 60s.
Oh man, it's going to be up there at the top right, and I can't make it out.
Can't see it.
Don't.
It's a long name, maybe November, December, something like
Yeah,
that.
probably so.
But you can see the receiver. It's the same receiver that's on that
is it?
cover.
All right. Let me get it back down to normal size here.
You got some interesting stuff on there, Tom.
Well, this is just like going into your museum. You've got everything here, and that's why it's so much fun coming down to your office and looking around. Now, to learn the code, there's a code practice oscillator.
Yeah,
and you know,
who made that one? I don't.
TAC it says on there. I don't know.
TAC, I don't know.
But you can see it was very modern. It had a tube in it.
Yeah.
Right there, and you know, that's kind of what we use to learn the code with. And you know, when I was learning the code, and I had other friends of mine that were learning it with me. They were a little younger than me, but we'd walk around playing outside, and we would, with our mouth, we would send code to each other, you know. Or if you lived next door, we'd use a flashlight, you know, and send a message, you know, from window to window, you know. And I wasn't a very good speller. One night I said, "Do you want to go?" I was going to say bowling tomorrow, and he says, "Do you want to go bowling tomorrow?" So I don't know. So anyway, I think you knew what I was talking about there. But you know, there's a lot of ways to learn it. We had reel-to-reel stuff, and also look at this. You got one of these.
Oh yeah, that's paper tape. With holes in it. That was used in World War II to teach Morse code, and you can see the name of it, the instructograph.
Yep. And you know, I'm sure today you've got tapes for yours. I bet you that tape's getting very brittle, and you know, it ain't gonna last long playing it. But that was a way to learn code. Back then. Yeah.
I had a hard time learning code. I had to listen to it on a regenerative receiver. And if you move your hand away from the tuning knob, the station would disappear.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see what this is. Look at here. This is a, whatever that is.
That looks like a Gonset
It is. It's a Gonset.
6 meter.
Now,
Wow.
I don't know if that has a VFO or if it was crystal. I don't remember.
I think the bottom is the tunable receiver.
Right. So I think.
And it
Oh
looks
yeah,
like
yeah.
a
I
crystal
see the
control.
top. The top left here is a crystal socket.
Yeah.
So you'd
And
put
there's
it.
a magic eye tube
Yeah,
again.
the magic eye there. Yep. Now, have you got one of
Yeah.
those?
I don't think I don't think I have one of
Well,
those.
we need to
That
find
was
you one.
kind of like the Heathkit lunchbox.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. What do we got here? This is a
Looks like a SX20.
25 SX25
Okay.
Sky Rider.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. That would probably been a
Man.
fair receiver.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a whole series of receivers like that.
Yeah.
RF stage converter, two IFs, and then the audio. And
Yeah.
some of them had crystals. Does this one have a crystal? One
Well,
crystal
I don't know.
for a filter.
Yeah. I don't know.
You see the RF gain control, the band switch.
I don't know.
Oh,
What do we got
that's
here?
a,
This is the Globe
World
Globe
Radio
Scout.
Labs Globe
Yeah.
Scout.
Globe Scout. Not a very good picture, but there's a Globe Scout. We're talking about surplus stuff. A lot of people got surplus receivers and different things. The CW keys. Here's a picture of a antenna switch that was very
switch,
popular. VFOs. When we got to where we didn't have to use crystals, and the FCC let us use a VFO, we'd get an external VFO.
Oh yeah. Man. The vernier on that
Mhm.
that dial you see in the top middle was just a big plastic dial, and that knob had a looks like a little pulley wheel that pinches onto the
Yeah.
edge of that dial,
Yeah.
and that made it into a vernier tuning.
Yeah.
And the way that you operate it, see on the bottom left, there were certain fundamental frequencies. And if you were operating, say, on 40 meters, or say, you might be using the second harmonic of 80 meters. Or you might be using the third harmonic of 40 meters. It would double and triple in the transmitter to get the other frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
You were showing some of those, that transmitter in that last picture with a meter on it. Do you remember those moving vane
Yeah,
meters?
those suckers would
Yeah.
swing. Those things would swing around like crazy. They didn't have
Yeah.
damping. Didn't have any damping in them, and that was. I don't know. I bought some meters like that when I was building some stuff back then. I thought maybe they were just cheap meters. The way they moved.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot about that's a lot of pictures I'll have about kind of the days here. And hey, I would imagine most people had their ham shack if they were young, 16 years old. I'm sure they probably had their ham shack in their bedroom. That's where mine was.
Yeah.
You were a little bit different though. You had yours up in the attic.
Up in the attic of the store. There's no floor.
You probably shared a bedroom, didn't you? And probably didn't want that radio down there.
Oh yeah. No, we had a bunch of little kids. I didn't want someone getting electrocuted.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good idea there. Well, and we're gonna open the phone line in just about 2 or 3 minutes here. Hey, soon after this 1960, 64, our novices, and we got generals. We started messing around a little bit with 2 meters. VHF. I mean, where I was, there were no repeaters. I don't know about you. 2 meters wasn't very popular. 2 meters was not very popular. But living near Memphis, a little bit later in 1972, I guess I moved to the Memphis area, and they had a repeater there. This was my 2 meter. This was my 2 meter radio. That's my 2 meter
Looks like
radio.
a Motorola.
That's a Motorola. I think it's a 80D or a 80V or something, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But mine had 2 channels in it. It had a little switch there between the knobs, and it was 2 channel. So we had two crystals, one for the repeater and one for direct. And that was my first 2 meter rig. I didn't have one for inside, didn't have one for mobile. That was my mobile rig.
That looks huge and heavy.
That thing weighed about 40 pounds. And, when I'd drive to work in the mornings, I'd stick it in the car right there to the right of me on the hump there. And when I'd get home, I'd pull that thing out and take it in the house and set it up. And that was my 2 meter rig in the house.
Wow.
So that's kind of that was kind of first 2 meter stuff that we had here, and that's in fact I've got an older. Let's see, I've got an older picture here. This is like early 1970s, but if you look on that rack on the very top, you'll see that 2 meter rig on the top there, and the rack mount. I think that was on the SP600, and I don't know what else all I had there. I built the heat kit, that HW100.
I see that.
Homebrew amp, Kier, heat kit Kier. So let's see. Oh, hey, and for phone patches, everybody nowadays has a phone touch tone pad on their phone. We didn't have that. You had to find your telephone somewhere. You had to steal the touch tone out of it, and you put it in a box. You put it in a box, and you plug that into your 2 meter radio, and that's how you sent tones.
Man. That microphone must have weighed a pound.
Yeah, that mic there was metal. Let's see, I got another picture.
Yeah,
there's the last picture there. That's a pretty neat little setup here. That was my receiver. I didn't have the transmitter. You got both of those. In fact, you probably got all four of those at your office.
Yeah, you got a VFO and a Kier.
And I guess that's a
Kier's
speaker.
on the
That's a speaker up on top. I think, isn't it?
It could be a speaker. I
don't know. It's got
the Kier.
I don't know what it is. It's got looks like the knob on the left has positions marked. I can't tell what that is. Let me see if I can zoom in on it.
Let me move my picture.
Let's see if we can move in here a little bit. Let's see what it says here. It says, it's a Kier. You're right. It's a Kier. I don't know what all the different buttons do there.
But you can see the speed knob on it.
Yeah.
That's a speaker for the side tone. Man, that's a matching station.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's do this. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to take about a 1-minute break. I'm going to open the phone lines up. When we come back, let's see if we can get some people to participate with us. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so stand by a second, and we'll be right back, everybody. Step up your gift-giving game this year and get your favorite ham an ICOM transceiver. ICOM offers a variety of high-performance and innovative products. Make the most out of this holiday season with one of these ICOMs today. Give your favorite ham the SDR they really want, the IC7610. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. It is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has RF direct sampling, an independent dual receiver, and dual digit select. Ham for the holidays, ICOM is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design, and it will far exceed your expectations. It has RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, a large 4.3-inch color screen, a real-time spectrum scope, and an SD memory card slot. The IC9700 is at the top of every ham's wish list this holiday season. Keep your competitive contesting edge with faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. ICOM's IC9700 is the pinnacle of perfection. It has a 4.3 color touchscreen, dual watch operation and full duplex operation in satellite mode, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, and a voice recording playback function. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. From QRP to QRO, fixed stations, portable and remote, an LDG tuner will match your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast, proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
All right, well, we're back, and let's see. I'm going to put a phone number up there. Phone line is on. Let's see if we can get the phone number up for everybody. Here we go. All right.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a phone number up there, guys. It's 712-775-7270. Dial that number. You'll have to punch that code in, the PIN number there with the pound sign. Let's see if we can get somebody in here and join us.
Yeah. Call
Let's
us.
see. All right. We're waiting. Let's see. We got to get somebody here. So,
Yeah, we want to hear about some of your when you were a novice. What kind of radios did you operate?
yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get somebody here in a minute. Maybe in the meantime, I'm going to turn that phone down. In the meantime, let's see. I have another picture or two here.
Okay.
Let me look and see what I've got here. You know, Martin, we talked a little about the half-wave antenna you wanted me to build, so I took the challenge up and I built it. And running, legal limit into that thing, it's very, very high impedance, high voltage at the base there. So, several things happened. So I tried, ladder line to match it and 600 ohm line. I think it'd have been all right, but I didn't like that 34 feet of ladder line or 600 ohm line stretched around, the yard out there. So I just went with a fixed LC network. There's a company that makes the LC network. I mean, isn't that beautiful there? There's a company that makes that over in the Netherlands. And basically, that's all it is. It's just a coil and an inductor and a capacitor to match the in-fed half wave. And that thing there is supposed to be up to 5 kilowatt. So anyway, you look at that and you look at that. I mean, which one of them's the prettiest, man? I mean, what do you think, man?
They both work.
Yeah, they both work there. So I didn't like the ladder line around the yard, and heck, if a deer came up, I'd probably electrocute him out there. So I just went ahead. That's how I matched it. It's very usable. The SWR is just about practically 0 or 1-to-1, and it will handle the high power now. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I think I'll keep it up for a while. We got somebody on the phone line, I think. Let's see who's on the phone line. Let me turn.
Oh, hey, this is Bill, WZ1L.
Oh, okay. Hey, Bill. How you doing, man?
Hey, Bill.
Bill, can you hear us
Well,
okay?
I'm not as... yeah, I can hear you fine, Tom. I'm not as older as you and Martin on a ham radio license. I got my license in 1981 while I was in the Navy out on Midway Island. And I was using a Wayne Green tape for code, and we had a Swan 350 radio that drifted all over the place. So trying to copy CW off of the off the air was kind of rough. We did have a gentleman come in. He had a Kenwood 520, and we were able to use that for a while. And But my first radio station was a Drake TR4, and from there I went to what was it, a Kenwood 520 SE, and then a Yaesu 757 GX. So trying to put wires out in the backyard here. I had a, what was it, Tokyo High Power. I think it was a Tokyo High Power transmatch, and scared the neighbors out there putting up wires in snowstorms and stuff like that. But we've got the dipoles now hanging out of the attic, so I don't have to worry about stuff like that. But nice to see the old stuff there, Tom.
Yeah, well, I mean, technology changing so fast. Boy, if we'd had, I wish we'd had the stuff back. Well, I don't know if I wish that or not. Martin, if we'd had the stuff that we have today, it wouldn't have been as much fun, would it?
We wouldn't know anything.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as much fun. So.
Everything we were doing was basic.
Yeah. And it wasn't that complicated, but we did learn. We learned a lot, I guess. Yeah. And I just hope the new people,
the transceiver era.
Yeah, I just hope that the new people that are getting their license. There's so many of these things where they have these license study things where in 8 hours get your ham license, and then when the people get their ham license, I see them asking questions. Looks like we must have lost Bill. I see them asking questions about like, okay, now what kind of radio do I need? So, I guess it just kind of evolved with us. We were told if you want to get a ham license, this is what you do first, and this is the way you move. Plus, we didn't have all this, we didn't have repeaters, and we didn't have all these other things back then. So, I guess life is just much more complicated now than it was back then.
Yeah, well, they're learning different stuff.
Yeah.
They're learning stuff, much more complex than we have. I mean, all these digital modes and real sophisticated transceivers, all the SDRs. They don't even use super heterodyne receivers anymore. It all gets digitized directly from the antenna.
Yeah.
Processed, basically a computer.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. It's different times, different things are out there. So I think they'll be okay. Not everybody
okay.
can grow up in the olden days like we did last century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know what happened to Bill. I don't know if he hung up or we lost him. But hey, guys, give us a call. Let's talk about your early days. 712-775-7270. And if you're listening out there on WBCQ, you're listening to Amateur Radio Roundtable. We are on this frequency every Tuesday night on 5130. And if you have a computer, you can go to w5kub.com and join in the show. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to tom@w5kub. Let us know where you are and where you heard us. All right, come on, guys. All these hams. Hey, maybe it's the new digital guys. The new guys that are on digital. They don't talk on a microphone anymore. Maybe that's why they won't call into the show. There's not many old timers like us left.
Well, they can send us a text.
Well, they can. Yeah, they could even say
Texas.
something or in a chat room.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it, how much things have changed?
Oh yeah. So, did you stay pretty active all those years? After you got your license, have there been many years that you were not very active?
I was probably active some throughout each year. You know how ham radio is; it kind of fades in and out.
Uh huh.
You know, some years you're really, really active. You find something you're interested in, and you know what always fascinated me was mobile operation and also operating with low power, with poor antennas. Like if you were in an emergency situation where you didn't have much uh, electrical power or didn't have much of an antenna, but you needed to make contacts. I was
Hmm.
fascinated with that even as a kid in uh, grammar school and high school, and I just like the idea of just sticking something up and being able to make a contact. Most all of it was CW, but
Yeah, and
lately what I like to do is just operate mobile from the car.
yeah. Well, you know that CW, it'll get through where your voice won't. And I know these little QRP CW rigs you can get now. They'll run on a little 9-volt battery, and on CW, I guess you could talk around the world on a device with a little 9-volt battery on it.
Unbelievable. And I've done that with a
Mhm.
9-volt battery.
Yeah,
Can talk to somebody. I mean, how much power can a 9-volt battery put out?
yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah. So they're mentioning, Glenn's mentioning the power. When we were novices, it was 75 watts. That's all we could run.
Input.
Yeah, 75 watts input. Now my transmitter was that 19150 would run, and we got a caller there, standby caller. My night T150 would run 150 watts, but you know back then I followed the FCC guidelines. I ran 75 watts. I thought they'd come get me back then. Who we have on who we have on the phone?
That was a time when we obeyed the laws.
Yeah, yeah. Who's on the phone?
Yeah, good evening, Tom. This is Bill, W4WNT.
W4WNT.
Yes,
And the name again, Phil?
Bill.
Oh, Bill. Oh, okay, Bill. The phone's not that great here. Okay. Hey, man. How you doing, man? What do you think about how things have changed, man? Were you a novice back then?
Yeah, I was a novice in 1972
Uh huh.
and went through virtually all the license classes due to circumstances, and I'm now an extra.
Uh huh.
But I've also made an effort to keep up with what's happening in ham radio, and so most of what I do these days is digital. Most of it is FT8.
Yeah.
Participated in the FT8 contest over the last weekend.
Well, that's great. I've tried a little digital out this year, a little FT8. You know, it is ham radio, and you are making a contact with your signal to other countries. But aren't you glad, Bill, that the way you came up in ham radio, you got to try a little bit of everything?
Yes, and I keep trying to expand what I'm doing. I do some VHF stuff. I've done meteor scatter, and of course the digital mode.
Mm-hmm.
And at my age, you would think I would be one of the CW forever people, but I've done forums on FT8 at the Charlotte Ham Fest in the last 2 years. So I hope I'm keeping up with what's going on in ham radio.
Oh, you definitely
Yeah, well,
are.
you know,
man.
I can still do CW, of course, with the extra. What we had to learn 20 words a minute, I think. But you know, I'm mostly voice. I'm mostly voice. I can still do CW. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. I can't do 20 words a minute solid now. I could probably do 12 or 13, maybe. In fact, hey, it's good to have. You know, you never know when CW might help you, man.
Bill, have
Yes,
you tried JS8 call?
Yes, yeah, I've done JS8 call. There's a there was a set of nets on Tuesday and Thursday nights on 40 meters that was using JS8 call for part of it. The other part of it was Olivia. So they were, digital nets.
How popular is JS8 call? I mean, you can actually have a QSO with that, can't you?
Yes, yeah, it's a very slow mode, but it will transmit your communication in chunks, packets, basically, and so yeah, it's been in use. They actually had a JS8 call activity. It wasn't really a contest, but they've been doing some net activities with it.
Are there specific frequencies that people gather on?
Yes, when you download the software and install it, it has the normal frequencies set up in the software, so you can just click on the frequency and it'll do a drop down of all the available frequencies.
Okay, like on 40 meters, is it like 7.075 or 7.076, somewhere around there?
I'm thinking it's 7.078, but it's in the drop down menu, so it's easy to find.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I always see ham radio as two guys getting together and having a chat and just enjoying, exchanging some information, where you live, what kind of radio you're using. I haven't tried that yet. I've done, let's see, JT65. But anyway, I want to try JT8.
Well, I need to figure out how to use the JT65. It looks very similar to FT8, but I want to try some moon bounce, and I hear that's what the JT65, either A or B or something, is what you really need there. So that's going to be another project we're going to do on the show here, so hopefully sometime soon.
It used to be really, really hard to do moon bounce, but now with the super low noise modes like JT65 makes things much easier.
Well, and that's what I've realized. There's no way I could do it on sideband with a typical station like me and modest beams. But with modest beams and maybe 70 to 100 watts of power in JT65, I think you could make some digital contacts, or you can make some. And definitely you can make some with the big stations, the stations that have the big power and the big antennas. So that's possible. So I just want to send, I just want to send a signal to the moon and bounce it back and make a contact. Once I do it, I probably won't do it anymore, but that's something I want to try to do on the show.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
The last time I saw EME being done was with WSJT. I think it was JT65 mode, and they were using about 400 watts and a pair of 12-element 2-meter beams. So it's not out of range of what the average ham might be able to put together.
Well, you can do it on a little bit less than that. I mean, you're starting to get into margin there, but you can do it on a little bit less than that if the other station is a big gun. In other words, if the other station is your kilowatt station, and if your other station has that 50 element array, you can get by with less on your end. Now, you're not going to talk to somebody else probably like you, but I just want to do it, and we'll do that. Hey, just mentioning something we want to do. We are hoping to get our next balloon launch up in the next couple weeks. Martin, I don't think you followed our last balloon launch, but we made it all the way past Japan. We went 14,000 miles in 14 days. Right now, there's some balloons up that are doing really good now. They're starting their fourth circle around the Earth.
Wow.
So they're moving along pretty good. They're staying up, particularly the ones made out of sushi wrap. We're going to go with the sushi wrap balloon. That's the material that they wrap sushi in. And there's a scientific company in California that's taking it now, making scientific balloons. So it's going to be more expensive, but we're going to go sushi wrap balloon. I think we're going to go with Whisper for our tracking because APRS, there's a lot of blank spots. When we went over Africa and the Middle East, there was no tracking because there's no receivers there. APRS would do about 250 miles, but the Whisper would do about 5,000 to 7,000 miles. So if we're over the ocean or over Africa, somebody's going to pick it up somewhere. So we should have much better tracking. We hope to do that in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a hydrogen balloon to get a little bit more altitude. We hope we can fly about 45,000 and get above the storms. Our balloon was flying about 31,000 the entire trip, and it finally hit a storm over Japan.
That's really interesting. Did you put that up yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm working with Bill Brown. He's our master of high altitude balloons, and Bill will launch it for us down at Huntsville. He'll get it together and get it launched for our show, and there's tracking. I'll have it on our website, and you'll be able to go to the website and track that balloon. You'll see the line where it is, altitude, speed. You'll see everything it's doing out there as it circles the Earth and where it is. So it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Bill, thanks for calling and sharing what guys during our era can still do.
Okay, very good. Nice chatting with both of you, and good luck.
Where are you calling from, Bill?
I'm just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Charlotte, North Carolina. Very good. All right. Well, thanks, Bill. Thank you. We'll take maybe one more call. It's almost time to close the show down. All right. Well, we'll get that off, so we'll listen to that. Okay. One more call. Be the last caller on the show, guys. 712-775-7270. Come on, let's call that number. Once you get that number, you'll have to key in the code up there, the 407051 #, and then you'll connect to us. We can actually do 1,000 simultaneous calls on our new phone system. Now, I don't know how to answer 1,000 calls, but we have the capability. Okay, well, I don't think we're going to get anybody else to call in tonight, Martin. I've enjoyed talking, Martin, about some of the old vintage equipment and the old days and kind of how we evolved to where we are today.
Yeah. Yeah, we came a long ways, Tom.
Yeah, just think what it'll be in another 50 years, man.
Yeah.
You know, in another 50 years, I wonder, can you imagine another 50 years, these ICOM, these IC-7300s are going to be so old, they're going to look like war surplus stuff, you know?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, stuff changes exponentially. There's
We've
no
got a
telling
caller.
what it's going to look like in 50 years.
Who we have on the phone?
This is Jim, K4ZM.
K4
Zulu
ZM.
ZN. Okay. How you doing, Jim? And where are you located, man? Where are you?
I'm in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay, good.
Hey, Jim, how you
Give you an
tonight?
interesting novice story.
Okay, let's hear it, man.
While in high school, I took electronics in high school, so I had to take code every day.
Yeah.
So I worked my code speed up to 35 words a minute. And
Wow.
my dad got
Impressive.
interested. I got my license in 1956 as KN4LXU.
Wow.
And then just before I left to go in the Navy in 1958, my dad got his Novice. So I left him a DX35 and an NC300. and went to San Diego and was standing watch or standing on the grinder in the morning waiting on inspection. After going to chow, we had to stand inspection, and this chief, who back in boot camp, a chief was actually more or less like an officer. You saluted him and everything. So this chief came up to my company commander and said he wanted to know if I had a recruit named Yance, and of course I thought right then, what have I done wrong? But this chief came up to me, and I saluted him, and I told him, yes, sir, and he says, relax, I'm K6 MVF, and I talked to your dad on 15 CW last night. When is your next Liberty? And I said, well, we just had Liberty Friday night. So he said, well, it'll be 2 weeks. I'll come pick you up at 5 o'clock. You're coming to my house, have dinner with me and the wife, and then you're going to talk to your dad.
Oh, man.
So I went to his house 2 weeks later, and actually got on 15 meters, and he had an SX99 and a DX100, old DX100, and I talked to my dad on CW. I thought that was an interesting novice story.
Wow.
That was
That's
really
precious, man.
That was interesting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What year did you say you get your novice
go ahead.
in? And
What year?
I got my novice in 1956. I've been continuously licensed since 1956.
Wow.
Well, that's great.
Unbelievable.
Well, hey,
That's
Jim,
a great
Jim, have you
story.
ever, I've never really, well, I did have an uncle. I helped him get his license down in Birmingham, and we used to talk almost every day on a certain frequency. So that was, family. Have you ever been involved in any kind of emergency where you took part in it?
Sure. Yes. I am a regular participant in the Pacific Seafarers Net.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, I was just sitting there waiting on time for the net to start, and I heard this gentleman come on from the South Pacific, and he called in and wanted to know if there was anybody on frequency. Mm-hmm. So I answered him, and he said, I've got a problem. He said, I've hit something. My wife and son are on board. We've hit something, and we're taking on water faster than the bilge pup can handle.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, quick, what is your position? And he gave me his Latin lot and said, I'm 400 miles south of Fiji. So I put out a call right quick, like to see if there was anybody on frequency, and the guy came back, and he said, I'm 7 miles ahead of him. I've done a 180, and I'm motor sailing back to him.
Well, that's
he
cool.
got back to him and rescued them, got the wife and the son over on his boat, and went over and tried to help him find the leak, but they were unable to find it. So in probably about 25 minutes after he arrived on the scene, the boat sank.
Man.
And so he took them, took the whole family on into Fiji. So I have
That's,
had some emergencies.
That's an interesting
incredible.
story. That reminded me of a story, not as severe as that, but back in the early 2 meter days, we had a net on that locals would call, and they'd always start the net out, this is so and so net, blah blah blah. It's a structure net, and first they said, do we have any emergency traffic? They always ask that, for a net. You got to think, okay, the net starts at 8 o'clock, and at 8:01 they're going to ask, is there any emergency traffic, like the emergency is going to happen right then, But, I was in the car mobile and in Memphis, and the net was just coming on, and about that time, a bicycle came out in the intersection, and a car ran over it. And when he said, does anybody have any emergency traffic? So I said, this is W5KUB, the emergency traffic. It was such a coincidence there. I did contact. I had an aunt up in Anchorage, Alaska. I think it was 1964 when I was a novice. The earthquake up there. They had the big earthquake there, and I was able to contact Anchorage on CW and find out the status of my aunt up there. So it's a neat hobby, and a lot of different aspects of it.
Yeah, well,
Jim,
one thing nice
Jim,
about having your father as an amateur also, the whole time I was in the Navy, I always went to a naval air station somewhere, and I would have access to the ham station, And in fact, my last 2 years in Norfolk, I lived in the ham shack, and
Yeah.
I was able to talk to my parents every morning just about on 40 meters AM.
Well, you know, and that's neat, and that was great, and particularly back in the '60s. You know, the phone patches from Vietnam. But you know, today with the internet, you got a connection, man. You know.
Yeah, it's no need to have a phone patch anymore.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I got mine off the bench over here now. No phone patch hooked up.
I got two sitting right behind me on the shelf right behind me here that are not hooked up. But I ran phone patches for the HZ1AB the time I was in the Navy. The most of the time on 20 meters. Interesting story. I was in the middle of a phone patch one night, and I had a Central Electronics 20A driving a Johnson Courier to 500 watts on 20, and right in the middle of the phone patch, the Courier caught on fire. Literally flames were shooting out of the top of it. So I stopped the phone patch and put the fire out. And I was running the phone patch for Saudi Arabia, so I quickly disconnected the antenna from the amplifier and just hooked it up on the back of the 20A, and called HZ1AB right quick like and asked him how copy, and he said loud and clear, and I was running 20 watts PEP on 20 meters.
Yeah. Well, I think we showed a picture of either the 10A or the 20A tonight.
The 20A. It was a 20A, yeah.
Oh, that was a 20A tonight? Yeah.
Went from
Well,
500 watts to 20 watts.
Yeah.
Loud
That's
and
right,
clear.
500 to 20. And I asked him, I said, well, did you notice any difference in the signal? He says, not really. He said, you were still Q5.
Well, that's good, man. What a story.
What
man.
I didn't tell you was that phone patch I was running, the person I was running it for was King Saud.
Wow.
Well, I was going to ask if you
Wow.
ever talked to what was it, the King of Jordan or whatever. You know, of course he's gone now. But
Hussein, I heard him on one night. I never talked to him, but this was when actually what had happened was the State Department called us one night and said that they were going to have a dignitary in the United States with his daughter to have surgery. I want to know if I would run a phone patch for him, so we did. And
wow.
he didn't tell me who it was until after it was all over with.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, you know, that's
It
good.
is interesting to have a phone patch instead of a telephone call.
Well, see, in 1960 there were no transoceanic cables to Africa, and there were no satellites. So the only
Yeah.
thing you had was radio.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
And
it worked
Jim,
out.
you know, you
And
have
in fact,
been a ham.
on field day this year, I worked W4NPT. It's now a club station down in Florida somewhere, but that was the call sign for the radio club there in Norfolk at the Naval Air Station.
What were you going to say, Martin?
Oh, I was just going to make a comment about Jim. He has had his ham license longer than we have had ours,
Yeah,
but yet he sounds much younger.
he does.
And
He
we
does,
do.
man. So, hey, Jim, how?
I'll be 80 at my next one, so don't worry about it.
Well, I was going to say, man, you sound about, I don't know, you sound about 39 here, and I was starting to, you know, kind of question things a little bit.
Well, my next one will be 80. So.
Well, I guess that's not
July
too
next
bad.
year.
You know, that's not bad at all. I'm behind you just a little ways, not far. I think Martin's kind of in between me and you, I guess.
I'm 75.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny thing. Nowadays, age is just a matter of how much good medical care you get.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, I think so. Yep.
So, well, it's
You know,
nice
the whole-
talking to you guys.
the
I
whole
thought
key-
I'd share that with you. It was an interesting thing. It scared me to death when that chief came up there and wanted to talk to me.
Oh man, well I'm glad I was in the Air Force, not the Navy, because I didn't have to go through all that saluting everybody like that, man.
Well, you were in the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I was in the Boy Scouts. We didn't do all that stuff, man. Hey, Jim. I don't recognize your call here. Have you been following the show very long, or are you relatively new?
Yeah, I've sent a picture in one time of my rig.
Did you? Okay.
But yeah, and I from time to time I'm able to get in here, but not every night.
Okay.
Usually I'm on the net, so at 9 o'clock, so I can't get in. But
Yeah.
I chose not to get on the net tonight, so. And I just moved to a new QTH, and I don't really have a good antenna system up. I just got a vertical in the backyard right now.
Okay. Well, that's all you need.
Well, you know,
Well,
Jim,
yeah, it's great for work in Europe, but it's not too good for local.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. We Martin just had me build a 40-meter vertical here, 65 feet tall, piece of wire, and it'll talk good if you're 1,500 miles away, man.
You know, Jim, I was trying to talk to Tom tonight on my vertical, which is on my deck, and I'm only 150 miles from Tom, and I couldn't hear him at all.
Well, I think you said you wasn't hearing anybody, man. I was having people from all over the country calling.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it was. I couldn't hear anybody.
Maybe you did like I did once, forget to hook the coax up to the radio.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you wonder why that antenna tuner keeps tuning and it can't tune it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Jim, thanks so much for calling in, man. Enjoyed it. Great stories.
Okay, enjoyed it too, Tom. We'll
Okay.
see you up at Huntsville probably this year.
Yeah, we'll be at Huntsville, and we're gonna
We'll see
be
Martin
down in
up there,
we'll be down in Orlando
Yeah.
here in a couple months, but we'll be in Dayton
Hey.
and we'll be in Huntsville.
Yeah, I may go to Orlando too because I've got about 3 of my friends who've passed away, and I've got their estate that I need to get rid
Okay.
of. So
Well, we're not going to have a booth down here. We'll probably have a camera and be running around and just visiting.
Okay.
You'll see us. I'll have my hat on and everything. You'll if you see us, yell at us.
I'll do it. I've seen you at Dayton. I've seen you at Huntsville. So
All right.
I've been up to most of them. So,
All right. Very good.
but it's good to talk to you guys, and y'all have a good night. Thank you for taking the call.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you. Goodbye.
Thanks for calling, Jim.
Bye. Bye.
All right,
Bye.
Martin, it's getting late. It's your bedtime. It's your bedtime, so we probably ought to go ahead and cancel the show now.
Okay.
And then I'll go in there and do a little editing and get it on, and I'll get our audio podcast loaded. So, and then we're set for until next week.
Okay, we had a good show. I enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it too. Good night, and we will see you later.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
All right.
Question.
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
Hang on.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.